Tech. This is our extended weekly chat where we're discussing last week's news and just breaking down what we can apply at the local newspaper level. Joining us from our hometown publisher support team, we have Terry, Vera, and Tyler. Welcome, everyone.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon.
Happy Friday. So let's get started right away with Tyler's first article.
Generating revenue from your paper's audience. This episode of Today in News Tech is made possible with audio articles by ourhometown.com. Today, we're highlighting a piece by Elliot Brennan over at journalism.co.uk featuring stories from three presenters at their recent News Rewired conference. The article, 3 Innovative Ways to Create Audience Revenue, discusses innovations being made in subscription acquisition for newspapers. The specific examples listed won't work for everyone, but the important lesson is that experimentation is key. You need to consider a variety of approaches, not all of which will work at the outset, said Elliot Brennan. Here are a few of our big takeaways. Target likely subscribers with variable paywalls, require subscriptions for niche articles whose readers will likely pay for, and leave pages that get high page views free, increase ad revenue. To attract younger readers and keep readership recurring daily, consider implementing games and competitions. These not only increase page views for ad revenue, but are also marketing opportunities. Newsletters are a great way to get a feel for your audience's reading habits and determine what they're willing to pay for. Put your highest quality, most consistently opened newsletters behind a subscription paywall. While these strategies have been successful, they also required a lot of iteration and testing before subscriber numbers began to increase. That's why our hometown's WordPress platform is constantly evolving to provide publishers with opportunities for experimenting with their business model.
All right. Perfect. So we do want to hit those 3 points, but can you bring up the original article? But yeah, AI powered pay gates. This is really interesting.
This was my favorite thing here. I thought this was just fascinating.
So just break it down for us as it applies at the, for local newspapers. What might this look like?
So essentially they've trained the AI to track readers' behaviors, and it only applies AI pay gates when it thinks that someone would actually be a subscriber.
And that's the vision. Like, how do you actually get to that, though? I mean, we can start to imagine it. We don't have anything like that in place with MemberPress, but how can we start to get there? I mean, we can look at stats. I mean, remember, we're designing these products. Every Friday we have a product meeting. We can decide where we go with this stuff. And, one thing we do have coming is the profiles on subscribers. And we're going to start building profiles on people even before they become subscribers. And that would all be kind of a prerequisite for this. But I just found it interesting. They're dynamically setting articles for free. So they've got maybe a metered paywall. But then on top of that, they're setting articles completely for free because they're saying the AI is telling us that this is more likely to make more money from ad revenue. Just if we can open it up, this is more likely to be a high volume article. Is that what they're doing, or?
More or less, yeah. High volume articles are automatically tagged as free. And then any niche article that is going to get consistent readership, but smaller. I think the example was about luxury cars or something like that.
Right.
Where your audience has the ability to pay and is interested enough to possibly pay. That's where they'll add that paywall in. Yeah.
I mean, I think as long as you have a paywall on some of your content and you're covering local news and you're the only one covering it, there always will be someone that wants to subscribe. But yeah, it's just striking that balance. And it's a little counterintuitive to say the most popular article, put it in front of the paywall, because you may think you want to protect that. But it also does kind of make perfect sense because it is, as we're seeing with the ad network, I mean, this money is on the table. If you just set up the ad network and set up the conditions for when articles do go viral, because it happens pretty unpredictably. We've seen it plenty of times at papers like Dallas and Atlanta. They really blow up on social media. And if they don't have an ad network in place, it's just that opportunity's gone, so you got to have it there. That's why we're really pushing for those in the next couple months here. I mean, I'm not sure that this is something that we can really just apply with the tools that we have here with MemberPress. We need it connected with stats. I think a simple way to get into this would just be to look at, the most popular categories and maybe just set those as free. If you're going to set some content for free on the site, why not start there?
I think you also have to look if they're on our ad network and we're generating revenue for them.
Right.
That might be a good segue, to do this. Yes, you want to protect your content, but how much are you getting versus subscribers versus your revenue that you're generating from those ads? Right. So it might be just, a good thing just to unlock certain things.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. It should come as part of the recommendations now. Yeah. Along with, getting on social media auto posts, definitely get on there. But if you're going to be sending more traffic every week, people are going to be using up that meter more. So this would be a way to kind of prevent that, because we don't want them to have a bad experience. If there's someone that's just never going to pay, really, ideally, the AI is going to identify those people and just give them everything for free. I think that's like the end game here, right?
Right, because at least that way you're getting ad revenue from
it. So. We're getting what we can out of it. Yeah, wow, that's fascinating. Okay, very, very cool point. Let's keep it moving here. The second one here, the third one I have an actual example of I want to show you. So let's wait on that. The games, what are some examples of games that maybe our publishers could do?
I was kind of trying to puzzle that out myself.
Right.
Because the example used in the article is a stock market game.
Right. It's something on the website. It's a widget or something.
Yeah. The best thing I could think of for smaller papers would be maybe like a fantasy sports element.
Very cool idea.
Local sports.
Right. For local sports. Oh my God. That is so cool, dude. I've never actually gotten into that. Have you ever done a fantasy?
No, I can't wrap my head around a lot of it. But
yeah, I don't know exactly what you even do. You just choose players and you make up a team. So you could choose local students as your players. That is a very cute idea. You could link it in with all the references. Oh my gosh.
Right. And the big point that they hit here is this was a really good way to keep younger readers engaged, like teens, 20 somethings.
Right.
And so if you're bringing that audience that wouldn't normally be coming to your site daily, that's pretty impressive.
We actually have a publisher that has a contest during football season.
Oh yeah.
And it's against the publishers.
Oh wow.
Or against the reporters and the publisher. Yeah. It's pretty cool. I'll have to see if I can find that.
Yeah, definitely. Any examples you can come up with. I love that idea though, Tyler. That's really cool. If we could find someone to run with that idea. But games are just in general super popular. I mean, this is taking a first principles look at the whole industry, and they understand that the gaming industry is huge. So I don't know if there's any kind of widgets that we could get on the website. Anything turnkey is obviously something considering.
And I think the other big thing here is to request things like email addresses when people engage with it, because that is the biggest benefit you're getting from it. You're getting a mailing list, out marketing opportunities.
Well, one thing that just occurred to me, I think that people do is photo competitions, right? That's a very common thing for newspapers. So to just bring that digital, I think a lot of people are used to probably sending in photos and getting them printed, but you could reverse publish if they were submitted to the website very easily, but definitely get the email. And that actually sets us up for our third point. But is there any other comments on this one?
Yes, I actually did too when I was a publisher. We had a caption contest. We would put a photo and we would actually have a gift certificate to Olive Garden for the winners. That kept people engaged. And the other one was we would hide an advertiser's logo in one of our photos. So it was kind of like a find and seek. So they had to find that advertiser within our photos as a watermark.
So, very cool. Okay. Yeah. Great. Actual real world examples.
And then there were the B papers in Buffalo that had the too good to be true classifieds where they would sneak in a fake classified. That was fun too.
Okay. So then let's move on to newsletters. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about this part, Tyler, and how you see it applying to local publishers? I'm going to take over as host and show you guys something while you're doing that.
I mean, essentially, the newsletter section is something that we already know and have experience with. It's use your newsletters to gauge reader interest in certain topics. And then when those topics have enough interest generated, launch a newsletter that's behind a paywall that covers it because you know the audience is there for it.
And if you can drive those spikes, through a newsletter from the beginning, and show this email I just got. So remember, I signed up for a New York Times subscription, just to kind of do my due diligence and see what the big industry leader's doing. And they signed me up for the New York Times cooking newsletter. So I get this really dense email. I think, Terry, did you say you tried this? You've seen
it? But then it went to a paid model.
Right. So this is already paid for me. And I didn't really take advantage of the free trial, to be honest. I think I looked at a few, I didn't cook anything, but I did click through. And now, I'm hitting this paywall. So this is what people mean by turning a newsletter into a paid model. You're not requiring people to pay to get the email. I just wanted to make that totally clear. I think some people, I don't know if they think that, but just to be totally clear, it's still centered around the website. It's still using the one MemberPress paywall. So you have a consistent membership database, and then you can kind of upsell them between the products. But it's neat. They're subdividing their sites. It's not all access anymore. They're creating new revenue streams that way. It makes sense. They're kind of increasing the price. They're inflating the price of all access, without directly doing that. Right. Because if I were to buy all these subscriptions, it would cost more than it did before. Very interesting strategy there. Again, data driven, and you look at your stats. And like you said, just look at what is the most popular category, set up a newsletter for that, and then use the newsletter to drive subscriptions to that vertical.
I wonder what they're doing with the readers that they get for the actual recipes. See the blurb down there that says, "No thanks, take me to the recipes that don't require a subscription."
So this is basically a freemium model. So they're going to give some stuff for free. And this is great value. That's nice that they kind of throw that in there. Yeah. As a reminder, don't bounce, at least look at the free stuff, and then maybe I'll convince you.
Right. And you still have the ads going on those pages.
They're running AdSense. They've got the numbers so that AdSense is easy for them. It works. Who knows what they're making? But for our customers, the smaller numbers, you kind of need those premium ad networks in there competing in an auction style. So that's what Our Hometown Ad Network is. I think that was it on that article. This is the Mather Economics story, right? So I got some exciting news for you guys before we play this. I just want you to know they reached out to us on social media. Did you see that I think it was on Twitter? I ended up meeting with them, and very cool people, very smart. I don't know the whole deal behind this company, but just really energize the conversation. And they want to actually kind of work together and promoting each other. Every time we produce a video, I'm going to let them know that we're coming out with it. Hopefully we're going to get someone from their company actually to join us next week for an interview, and we can talk about some of these things. Nice. It's crazy. Yeah. And so then they'll be showing our videos on their channel. They're just getting into social media, but they've been around. They're a major firm. They do tons of research on newspapers. They have an audience in newspapers. So this is cool. They were just seriously impressed with what we've been producing. They watched a bunch of our videos. They specifically mentioned you guys as the other people on the call, the characters. They didn't mention you by name, but because some of them are just me, they just love the conversation. They love the contributions there. So we're going to all talk. They'll probably lead it, but you'll see this guy, Scott, is pretty cool. He took a break from this conference he was at just to meet with me really quick. And he wasn't sure exactly how we would work together, but it seems like we'll just cross promote on social media, if nothing else. This is kind of what the podcasters and the modern content marketers do. They just go on each other's podcasts and kind of help each other grow. With that, let's hear one of their recent stories on revenue models based on newspaper subscribers.
Today, we're highlighting a piece by Matt Lindsay and Arvid Chivjel over at Mather Economics about subscriber saturation and potential revenue for newspapers. The article, Sustainable Digital Business Models for Newspapers, discusses recent trends in digital news subscriptions and how those are impacting papers' business models. While revenue expectations will differ depending on the size of your audience, there are some general takeaways that can benefit all newsrooms. Newspapers are what economists call two-sided market firms. They attract an audience with original content, sell access to the content to their audience, and sell access to their audience to advertisers, said Lindsay and Chivjel. Here are a few of our big takeaways. Both subscriber numbers and subscription prices have been increasing. Subscribers are up 9% in the past year, while prices have risen 400% in the past 15 years. Medium-sized regional papers can expect to convert 1.5% of their digital readership into subscribers. Saturation is reached when papers are losing and gaining subscribers at the same rate, but those numbers can be improved by improving the paper's digital products. The article also suggests that a newsroom's budget should be approximately 50% of its digital subscription revenue. That way, the paper's digital services grow alongside its audience. Because of this, our hometown developed our flexible WordPress platform to ensure that newsrooms have all the resources they need to support their readership.
What are the points we want to hit on here? They're pointing out the prices are increasing. So the guidance we've been giving people is, I think, pushing them a little farther. Current recommendation is $8 to $10 a month for a weekly paper, which is definitely up. And they're saying up 400%. Probably looking at dailies with that too, but still, that's good trend. Anything you guys wanted to point out here that might be helpful to our customers?
I think it's interesting, the last piece there that says the article suggests that a newsroom's budget should be approximately 50% of its digital subscription revenue. What is that newsroom budget? Is that print and digital? Is it just?
I think they just mean the editorial budget for creating the news, paying the reporters and the editors 50% of the subscription revenue. And then you've got ad revenue that's just on top of that, definitely covering your costs with digital subscriptions.
Right. So it's kind of incentive right there to build up your digital model so that you have a better budget for your newsroom overall.
They're kind of just saying, whether you're talking today or 10 years in the future, you need to have this balance to survive. You may go totally virtual and your newsroom's budget will go down. It's okay if the digital revenue goes down as long as it's twice the budget. And that's, I think it should be expected. The revenues are going to decrease as you go all digital, but the costs go down even more. That's why it'll work. Okay. And then medium-sized regional papers can expect to convert 1.5% of their digital readership into subscribers. That was an interesting number. I wonder how we line up there. You know, we could easily pull that for all of our customers, monthly page views and.
Right. I think the metric that the article used was 1 million monthly page views.
Okay.
As its like bottom floor. So I was having a hard time adjusting that for most of our papers, but
this is about the percentage. They're on a different scale, but if this is roughly
that's the low
ratio.
end.
Right.
I think the high end was 5% for
interesting. Yeah. Okay. And one thing I was thinking is how digital, the fraction of print subscribers that become digital, but that's not what this is talking about. Yeah, it's purely the traffic. So this is what we were just saying, like that 1.5% is your reader revenue. Those are the most dedicated people that want access to everything. And then the other 98.5%, hopefully you're able to give them enough free stuff to keep them coming back so that you can monetize them with the ad network. Let's wrap this up here with the third point. Saturation is reached when papers are losing and gaining subscribers at the same rate. Okay. Losing and gaining just print subscribers or
digital subscribers. Okay. So like essentially like you'll always be losing some subscribers, but as you start out, you're going to be gaining more than you lose, but then eventually you'll reach a point where you're losing as many as you're gaining. So you've hit a peak.
Stable. And this is interesting. I think about this for any business, like at our hometown. When I started 12 years ago, there was issues with customers leaving. Sometimes we never lose customers anymore. We just decided to eliminate that problem. We're going to just like make the products and the service so good that once we get a customer, they never leave unless they go out of business. That's the only thing that we've seen in the past couple of years. That's kind of the idea here. You just want to improve the experience for when people do pass through as a customer so that they stay and the loss is reduced. That's interesting. Yeah. And just make it really easy for people to try it, you know, so then you can keep them. Thank you very much for those 2 articles, Tyler. That was really helpful. Let me show you guys this. I've got a bunch of things to just show you now, not audio articles that we've created on Today in News Tech, but other podcasts and things. So let's go over to this one first. This is actually produced by Town News. This is called the Nirvana Podcast. I'm probably going to want to skip ahead now because we're going to run out of time otherwise. I'm going to skip part of the intro. But they had a pretty interesting guest this week. I thought it kind of related to some of the things we were talking about earlier.
Daniel Williams, CEO and co-founder of Blue Lena. Welcome to the News Nirvana Podcast. Thank you so much. Very happy to be here. Well, this is, I a little bit excited about this episode. It's a little different than what we've done in the first 6 or so episodes as we've launched this podcast. We've talked to a lot of editorial people. We've talked to a few on the business side, but we really haven't talked about audience building, audience retention. And I know that is on all of our minds, all of us that run a news organization of some kind or are in the trenches with it. Building that audience is a different beast than it was 20 years ago. And you run a Bulletin, a technology company that is focused exactly on that issue that we're all working toward. So really I think I was struck when you and I talked offline a couple days ago by that. You mentioned, it's a different game. We're not chasing subscribers really anymore. We're not chasing mailboxes. Mm-hmm. You could have an audience of 4 at one address instead of just worrying about, are we going to drop a newspaper to that address or are we going to hit that cable box at that household? Yeah. So as you've progressed over this, how do you describe that change in the audience that we're looking for?
Yeah, so the way that I describe it is I think what's happened over the last 10, 15 years is the business model has shifted away from an address-based distribution model where historically we've delivered a printed product to a physical address, a household, a business. There may be multiple occupants who read that product. We knew very little about our audiences. We were primarily concerned with, distributing a printed product to a location. What's changed and what really has accelerated with the advent of smartphones and connected devices is that we've now shifted from an address-based distribution model to a user-based access model for content. And there are so many ways that, those devices that we all have changed our lives in every way, including how we access and consume content. So, I think one of the challenges that we've seen, over that same period of time within the industry is that in shifting from an address-based distribution model to a user-based access model, in many cases, the technology is not built or necessarily equipped to manage that individual consumer relationship. And that's been very problematic for media companies that are trying to go through a transformation of their business model. So what we've done at Bulletin is develop a company that can help media companies with accelerating that digital transformation by focusing on those individual reader relationships. And the way that we do that is through installing and managing technology on publisher websites that really supports 3 things. One is the conversion of anonymous site visitors to known registered relationships. So that person who you don't know, that unique visitor that's coming into your site and reading content, we're serving ways that person can establish a relationship. We know who they are. We can manage their profile and preferences and serve relevant content to them. So that's the first part, is the conversion of anonymous site visitors to known. The second part is engaging with those readers to develop a brand relationship. The way that we do that is through certainly serving relevant content on site, but also leveraging digital marketing tools like email, text messaging, social media channel integration, and so forth, to really develop and nurture a relationship with those readers. And then the third part is really the outcome that everything is engineered to achieve, and that is to, through that process of building relationships and engagement, we want to convert as many of those readers to a paid relationship as possible. Now, not everyone is going to convert to a paid relationship, but if we are effective in the way that we go about, developing those relationships with readers, we think we can, maximize and optimize the rate of conversion, and then lifetime value and retention and all of those things that we're very focused on. So, that's basically, Blue Lena and what we do today.
This is a company that's, as I mentioned later, they are now part of Town News. So this is something that they're offering. I think Town News has been talking for a long time about doing this IQ program where we're saying that they were already tracking people, but now they have this third party doing it. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but we need to do more of this. I think we are getting into it. His concept of converting unknown to known is just getting an email, a newsletter sign up. So we are doing these things at a basic level, and we've got the traps and we've got the workflow set up. There's clearly a way to subscribe right there. But I think it's just the targeting and building profiles on people that would really take it to the next level. So these are all things that we're developing right now. We kind of need to know what we want to develop. So that's kind of why I'm bringing it up here, I guess. Any feedback on that or any other ideas on how we could kind of do the things that he was talking about? Because everything he was talking about made sense, right?
Oh, it does. And the only thing I have to say is he's making it sound like it's a new genius idea, but it's really not. We've been doing this for a while and we're building on it.
Well, the big thing now is like, it's got to be AI and it's got to be machine learning. And yeah, I think potentially that's how you take it to the next level if you do it right. It doesn't, just because you're using those tools doesn't mean it's going to actually increase sales, but it's just pop-ups, when to send a pop-up. It's not rocket science. It's just testing different stuff. You need to create this brain that can be wired to work however it needs to, and that's what machine learning is all about. We don't know how we actually need to make these offers. So you figure it out by just trying a ton of stuff and keeping track of what works. Anyway, that's the first piece of media I wanted to share with you guys. This is a podcast, hilarious. I highly recommend it, first of all. It's called Smartless. Has anyone ever heard this by any chance? Yeah. Tyler, you listen to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple episodes.
Yeah. Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes, hilarious. This is a really good show. And so I wanted to give you guys an example of what we keep talking about as a host-read ad. We've been talking about it in reference to a lot of the statistics and research that has come out on podcast revenue. And a lot of times I think the host-read ads seem to generate more revenue. I kind of think of us as not doing that, but really we do host read ads, right? I mean, it's the computer that's the host. So I think it would be neat if we could have a different voice for the ads. And that is something that's coming with the dynamic ad insertions. So we'll be able to do those things. But let's listen to this because they've got some music in the background. I think that's a nice touch, maybe something we could integrate into the player, just royalty-free music that you could choose to associate with certain advertisers or just do across the board. It makes the ad stand out a little bit more. These guys are they're funny. And I just think if, we could even kind of demonstrate this ourselves by doing our hometown ads on these, but, just allowing your personality to come out. I think this is really something that newspapers could do to market themselves. They're personally related to a lot of their advertisers. They probably use a lot of their products, so they can talk very casually about them and honestly. This is a little bit of a joke ad, as you'll see, but you get the concept. They just talk about the product in a way that is just natural for them, which is just funny. Okay, here it is.
Smartless is supported by Vuori Clothing. Vuori is a fresh perspective on performance apparel. Everything is designed to work out in, but doesn't look or feel like it.
That's right, Sean. These pieces are designed to perform while still looking great. They'll take you from the gym to the coffee shop, to whatever other errands you might
It's a little corny, right?
This one day, I'm in my Vuori.
Okay.
I'm pushing weight, just blasting backs and buys, and I'm feeling great about myself. Then I go to a gas station. I fill up my car. Same clothes. Same clothes.
What happened next?
Then I went to the zoo just to feed the giraffes like I like to do. I'm dressed totally appropriately, and I feel great. Everything's stretching, everything's wicking, everything's happy. Then I went to church.
What?
Sat down, had a great church session, and then I went to my painting class.
Oh my God, what a long day this was.
Crushed that. I'm still
in the same clothes.
I looked great. Sorry, you go on.
Another thing we love.
Tell me.
Vuori is reducing and offsetting 100% of their plastic footprint from 2019.
Affiliate marketing coming up.
Vuori is an investment in your happiness, listener. They're going to give you 20% off your first purchase. So why don't you go get yourself some of the most comfortable, most versatile clothing on the planet at vuori.com/smartless. That's Vuori, VUORI.com/smartless.
Not only will you receive 20% off.
Like in the old days of advertising on radio, you guys spell things out again. Wasn't that kind of interesting? The affiliate marketing, that's how they're all doing it, right, Tyler? I mean,
right.
And Vera, you listen to a lot of podcasts too, right? Like, I think we all listen to podcasts. Pretty much everyone is doing these host-read ads where they just have their show as the code. Super easy to remember. I think I mentioned this before. I have actually purchased something. I actually signed up for a subscription to something through a podcast. So it works, they actually can sell stuff this way, because they have an audience. These guys have huge audiences, but you don't need a huge audience like that as long as it's the right audience. And that can be just the local newspaper audience. Okay, I will pull up Kevin Slimp. You guys got to hear this. This is really exciting. We'll just play this first, and then maybe we can just talk about his sessions in just a casual way and like our experience with them. He wrote this for us this week.
Kevin Slimp. Why I joined forces with our hometown to train community newspapers online. Don't tell anyone, but I must be older than I look. I started offering online training long before most people knew such a thing existed. 20 years ago, I worked with a production company in Indianapolis that hosted and produced my monthly webinars for newspapers. It was quite the production. My favorite part of each webinar was when the announcer would introduce me by saying, "And now, coming to you from his lavish studio in Knoxville, Tennessee, where the sun is shining, and the temperature is 78 degrees, it's the news guru himself, Kevin Slimp." I paid dearly for their help, but it was the only way to offer webinars at the time. It was about a year or so ago when I first heard from Matt Larson, CEO of our hometown. Matt reminded me we had met at some conventions in the past. I believe he mentioned the New York Press Association convention as one of them. Matt was interested in the webinars I was offering to newspapers each month. His question was, could our hometown sponsor your webinars so our members could attend or free? I offered a couple of options.
Got to fix that.
Press associations often sponsor a webinar for their members by paying a discounted fee for each person who attends. Another option was to offer discounted rates for our hometown customers who wanted to register on their own. No, Matt explained, I'd like all of our customers to attend all of your webinars for free. Our hometown will foot the bill. I was impressed with Matt right away. I've had quite a few software companies, online vendors, and others offer to sponsor my speaking engagements and webinars in the past, but I always said, no thanks. But when I talked with Matt, I could tell that he really cared about his customers and wanted to offer this to them just for being our hometown customers. He didn't ask anything from me in exchange, except to teach his customers. We worked out an agreement. Instead of each newspaper paying the usual $69.99 fee for a webinar, our hometown newspapers would attend at no cost to them. It was a win-win-win for our hometown, me, and all the newspapers that would attend. Let me be frank, individual newspapers pay me hundreds of dollars to lead a webinar just for their papers. Some papers pay several $100s each month for me to lead a monthly online training session just for their papers. Press associations sometimes pay thousands of dollars for me to lead special sessions for their members. Although it might not, or might, seem like a big deal, the training offered through our hometown is not like free training you'd find searching around online. It's developed for community newspapers just like yours. I'm glad that so many of you have taken Matt up on his offer. This month on November 12th, I'll be offering a session on the basics of Adobe Illustrator for newspapers.
Wasn't that nice? I mean, he wrote this for us. I just asked him to write a blog post, and this is all true. And it never occurred to me that no one had suggested that to him before. I just want to offer this as a new service to customers included in what they already pay. No additional cost. It's just thank you for being our hometown customer. So this is kind of going to be an ad here. So let's turn it into a promotion. We've got it next week on Friday. Is it November 12th? So it's a Friday session. I'm definitely going to jump on there. I think he's going to let me talk in the beginning, but I mean, anything you guys want to say about Kevin's session so far? I mean, Terry and Vera, I think you've been going to almost every one.
And I've even gone to one session more than once, and they're always different. And he's a character. He's
very engaging.
Yes, engaging and relatable. He's just a down to earth guy, and he speaks in plain English. He just he doesn't throw things over the top and lose you midway through the session. I mean, he's fantastic. I just love it.
Right. He is an extraordinary trainer, but I think just the idea of providing training to your employees is something that is so important, just to give them the tools to be the most successful that they possibly can. They need to be so familiar with these things that they're not even thinking about it. And this is what he'll get you to that point. A brand new employee, if you're hiring someone young out of college, they don't know how to lay out a paper, but they know how to blow up a blog. They understand digital, but you need to bring them up on print. This is a great way to do it. Just enroll them in our course. They will learn something pretty much every 30 seconds of these sessions. I mean, he's just throwing facts and tips and tricks and shortcuts out every second. So
we actually had a publisher write this past week asking a question that came from one of Kevin's training sessions.
Right. That's right. Yeah. They were like, what did he say about this? That's great. Yeah. Thank you for doing that. Because I was like, oh, man. I let that one go. That's why we got to do those kind of follow-ups when we can. That's what's coming up this week. Okay, so at Today in News Tech, what we're doing is a lot of product reviews these days, and our hometown creates audio articles. We use them for our website. Here we have the Bulletin, and we're looking at Trinity Audio to see an example of a similar tool. We're always looking for new ideas. So let's just see what they're doing with this widget. It looks like it's a similar kind of plugin, and this is on a town news website. So let's take a listen.
Just a quick word from our sponsor.
¿Tiene un proyecto de colocación de techo?
Okay, so right there is a difference in the functionality, right? With our ad player, currently the ad is part of the same file as the article. It looks like you could see that this is changing files, and we're going to listen to this entire file. So they have more of a dynamic ad player. This is something that we're going to be releasing in the next couple months with a lot of new updates as part of the playlist generator. So we will have that, but right now we don't. Also, I like the music. I think that's something that we could integrate into our system. And then it sounds like it's a different voice. They kind of do a quick setup, tell you that it's an ad. We don't do that. We just kind of start reading the ad. It might be something to consider there too.
¿Por qué no hacer un solo viaje por todo lo que necesita? Usted puede comprar todo el sistema de...
Terry, they must have A/B tested me and thought I was Spanish speaking. We talked about this last week, right? That's interesting.
En The Home Depot. Ahorre aún más tiempo cuando compra en línea.
I wonder if this is an ad network.
I think it is.
Okay, they do have something like that. So interesting. Definitely something we're going to be getting into very soon.
Recoge en la tienda. Obtenga todos los productos GAF que necesita. Todo el sistema de techo.
I don't think I can skip this. That's how ours is going to work.
Nos encargamos de proteger lo que más importa.
Hotels rethink the concierge.
They're definitely going to be able to track in detail. I mean, we can track how long every episode's been listened to, but they've got these separate files, so they know, okay, that entire file was listened to, and then they listen to this much of this.
Guests find unique and little hyped tours and experiences in Portland. The Hyatt Regency Portland soon plans to have a concierge of weird.
Definitely sounds like they're using probably one of the basic tools that we use. A lot of this stuff is kind of been pre-built, the text-to-speech transcription. So a lot of it's plug and play. They might even be using some of the same tools we are. This is ours.
When you've got to get your house organized and fast, you don't want to lay hands on everything you own or ask if those objects have brought you joy.
So that's the Matthew voice.
What makes Portland so great is that it's the small, some call them weird, off the beaten path destinations.
I think it is a different voice, but either way, it sounds like they're using the best technology out there, the AI-powered natural language processing that's going to get the pronunciation right and make it sound realistic. That's all built into ours. The thing I really like about ours that I think could add to this, and I'm not sure if Trinity offers this, is the playlist interface. So we could, through a RSS feed on sites just like this, anyone using Trinity anyone on Town News, really any CMS that, can just give us an RSS feed, we could produce a playlist page like this, host it as a subdomain. So, it would be like playlist.benbulletin.com. Then you can come in and actually have playlists. And to me, the playlist is what has taken our product to the next level. We used to have the article level player, just like Trinity is doing there. We found the engagement good, but we didn't really see it blow up until we organized them into playlists. And the playlists are organized by related stories, by category. We can kind of slice and dice them a lot of different ways. Top audio articles, the most recent. So this is something I think that could play very well in parallel to Trinity Audio, anyone using that service. So, we'll follow up with these folks and see if we can make something work there. But, I just think the fact that they're interested in audio makes it a good place to start. The fact that they're already using it. The interesting thing is we can't put the article player on a third-party website yet. So that's actually a limitation of ours. So it's like a perfect synergy that could be happening with Trinity. Did you want to talk about the Journalism Act?
Local Journalism Sustainability Act. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to put it in a nutshell, what happened was the bill was taken out. Okay, so what happened was it was removed.
Right.
And within a week, these people put out a call to publishers to get to their legislatures, and bam, it's back in the bill. So that's really, really good news. We went on a teeter-totter this past week. The fact that it's back in play is huge because it happened in a week, less than a week, 6 days. This went from being a non-item to being back in focus. Right. So that tells me that it's got a really good chance of passing, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So we covered it a while ago. Some like payroll credits and stuff like that. I forget what the details are.
Credits to publishers to pay their journalists, credits to advertisers, and credits to subscribers that they don't even have to itemize on their taxes. It's just an automatic thing. Yep. I'm so excited about it. It's really a boost for local newsrooms, especially the small community newspapers. This is going to be a saver.
Congrats to America's newspapers. And like I said, I really think that NNA and a lot of the state associations were probably pulling their own weight on this too. Because who else is going to organize people? And they're kind of like us on the way we cover news tech. They're covering the postal changes and kind of the more traditional journalist related industry. Yeah, this is super valuable. Congrats.
If you ever question the value of your newspaper association, here's proof right here. The associations work for the publishers, what we trust them to do, and they're doing it.
Exactly. While we're on it here, let's see. This is going to be a fun thing. Speaking of the value that they provide and the service that they're bringing to the industry, it's this webinar series. America's Newspapers is associated with it, the online media campus. It's almost every week that they're offering these. And we've been invited once again to do another presentation. So we'll be talking about some specific case studies from Indiana, the Hoosier papers that we launched, some of the lessons there on, those were digital news deserts, but they had a Facebook presence, no website. And then launching this website, it was just so interesting. In the first week or so, there was just no traffic. It doesn't just automatically happen. Even actively promoting it in the print edition, it's going to get a few really interested people to type in that URL. Probably want to use a QR code for print. But the point here is that you really need to establish the channels to the main drivers of traffic on the internet, which is Google and Facebook. That's the quickest way to get your site up and running. You can grow it organically by just promoting it in the print edition or something like that. But
they basically went from no presence to the presence.
Zero to the presence in town. Right. This website now that they control and they own the traffic on, it's not Facebook, which is just a total dead end for you as a publisher. In terms of the relationship with the reader, they're just consuming your content. There's no giving back, there's no even giving back of their information. I think you can see like part of the list of who's following you, but you can't really, directly communicate with those people. You don't have emails. Facebook is going to protect all that. The only way to communicate with them is through Facebook. And that's what they had. They had a great resource, but they were totally dependent on Facebook. 20,000 followers, which is incredible for a weekly. And they got there by posting tons of content as image galleries, hundreds of photos for one event they'll post up there. So people would engage with the content. But now we're teaching them, you need to put that as a image gallery on the website, put a few photos on Facebook.
We had to change their focus from paying Facebook to paying themselves. I mean, they were basically giving Facebook a paycheck with the loss in ad revenue and subscriptions.
Sure, there's a loss there. And as we talk about all the time, is becoming more an issue internationally. There's a clear benefit that Facebook has. They're making money off of our content, even just the users, but certainly the high producers like the publishers out there. So they're making money off of you. So just use them is the point. Don't let them use you. Turn the tide, use them to direct traffic to the website. And we'll also just talk about the basics of getting indexed in Google, getting on Google News, keeping readers engaged on the website longer, all things to bring yourself back, because Facebook has filled in the gap. It's just kind of been the default. And if there is no newspaper there, that's where people will go. There's a little bit of next door activity too, but it's primarily been Facebook. So that's not a bad thing though. You know, as you can see, you can recover from it. And most newspapers have a company page at this point with a couple thousand subscribers. That's a great place to start.
I think you used the analogy of cattle towns getting their cattle to the railway, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that was right. It's like
the railway
connecting to the railroad. It's essentially the same thing. It's the analogy that Cecile gave us on her story. If they cut you off for any reason, that's like the whole censorship thing. You're SOL. I mean, there's like nothing. You're in the wilderness. You're stuck out there on the Great Plains. No way home. That's what we'll be doing for America's newspapers. So yeah, just a little segue there. Awesome. All right. Thank you again so much for the help, guys. It was really fun. We'll talk to you later. Have a good afternoon. Thanks for watching Today in News Tech, the podcast covering innovation in digital journalism. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube or any of your favorite podcast apps. We'll see you tomorrow.
At our hometown, we help newspapers build WordPress websites, design native apps, and develop digital subscription models. If you are interested in a free prototype of your publication on WordPress, go to ourhometown.com and click the Contact Us button.